actually very interested in talking with you about PR. You said you're very good at building media relationships. How do you actually build media relationships?
I think that's sort of the core of public relations is, as with many parts of business, you have to build relationships. So like how you do that and how we do that. So at Superconnector Media, we say we're PR done differently. So we're different than a lot of PR agencies will write something and just send it to everyone that says they write about business. Like if I'm pitching Digistore, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to search for everyone that covers marketing or any media outlet that writes about marketing. And I'm just going to send them an impersonal pitch. Well, what we do instead is like we really dive in and we learn about who the media is, what each person does, like what their passions are. I think one of the biggest misconceptions about PR, if you hire a PR company, is that, cool, I hire them, I don't have to do anything. That's a big misconception. When you hire a PR firm, you also have to do work. And that's really like helping them understand your messaging and sharing like the ideas, the latest news about your company. It's a mutually beneficial. Like we do most of the work. We understand your story. We help, like we do all the heavy lifting.
As a serial entrepreneur, I'm always trying to evolve. Having great conversations with other high performers is one of the best ways to grow. Not only in business, but also in spirit, health, and relationships. This is Svencast. Listen, grow, repeat. I'm actually very interested in talking with you about PR. You said you're very good at building media relationships. How do you actually build media relationships?
Yeah, so I think that's sort of the core of public relations is, as with many parts of business, you have to build relationships. I know the same is true in sales and marketing, like as a leader. So like how you do that is, and how we do that. So at Superconnector Media, we say we're PR done differently. So we're different than a lot of PR agencies will write something and just send it to everyone that's like says they write about business. Like if I'm pitching Digistore, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to search for everyone that covers marketing or any media outlet that writes about marketing. And I'm just going to send them this like impersonal pitch, which is like basically like sort of the story. I'm just going to send that to the media. Well, what we do instead is like we really dive in and we learn about who the media is, what each person does, like what their passions are. Usually, sometimes it's like what they're covering. Sometimes it's like what they do outside of work, which I can find that from like their bio or their social media. I see them posting about running or something, and I'm going to reach out and like maybe start talking to them about what they do in their spare time. And then I'm going to change the conversation to talk about more a client or something. But I think building relationships is important because you like it helps you to be more authentic. Like PR is sort of what they call earned media. So you have marketing where you have the amount that you pay, you get that, whether that's like an ad of some sort or you're paying for like to speak at an event. Whereas PR, you're sort of convincing the media or whoever it is you're working with that this person, so like that I'm pitching you, Sven, and I say, well, Sven, like you need to know him because he does cold immersions, like he stands all day at his desk, and like all this that he does in his personal life helps to lead a company, Digistore 24, that's like number one in Germany. Like it starts at the top with Sven's leadership and how he lives his life type thing. So that's sort of like, well, I'll stop there for now.
Okay, I see. So what you're saying is, if I understood that correctly, so so you have like a target. Let's say you want to have XYZ newspaper or TV channel or even YouTube channel or something. And then you find out about those people who are responsible for this channel or company or TV station. You find out like what they're about in their spare time. And then you're trying to make a connection. Is it like, do you approach them on LinkedIn? Do you approach them on social media? How does it work?
Yeah, great question. So you can do it a few different ways. I've actually had a lot of success with LinkedIn. Surprisingly, I never really did it much until I'd say the past 7 months. And I actually found that a lot of people were, if they were actually using their LinkedIn, which a quick check, like if I go to their LinkedIn page and they've posted something, then I know, okay, I can reach out to them on LinkedIn. If they haven't really posted, then my message will
Mm.
probably sit there. But oh, sorry.
Interesting. No, no,
Yeah,
that's fine. I didn't want to interrupt you, but then so interesting. Like, okay, because I'm sometimes looking at LinkedIn, but I'm not posting regularly. So it's a good idea to post on a regular basis if you want to be contacted or if you want to get interesting contacts like yours.
yeah, I recommend that, and because you want to position yourself as a thought leader, as you know, as part of as Digistore 24's leader, you also want to be a leader in the direct response marketing space, and you are in Germany, but also with the US branch. You'd want to share things like, company updates, what you
Mm.
do. And it could even be, sometimes it maybe could be like the story of why you stand throughout the day and how that helps you be productive. Because then other CEOs or founders of tech companies, or even just your employees, see that and they look up to you as Sven, and they say, oh, well, probably part of why he's so successful is, he puts wellness first. So it can be little things like that, or like company updates, what the newest thing that Digistore 24 is working on, when you launch
Mm.
something, just like sort of a featuring a product, like maybe you just want to like spread the word about, some vendors on Digistore 24, and you just want to say, this week I really would love to shout out this product. Like they've been really great. They've been part of Digistore for a year and a half, that sort of thing. Um, so that's how
Mhm.
you could use LinkedIn. But the main way in PR we do it, so we have some tools, obviously, like databases where we have media's emails, because generally pitching, the primary way you do it is through emails. But I actually find you can find a lot of emails just online. So if you're going to a big media outlet, a lot of times, like in the US, like obviously big ones are Washington Post or New York Times. And those writers, especially the staff of that newspaper, when I'm looking at articles, I'll see their bio and their email is right there. Like they're very easy to contact. Another
Mhm.
way you can do it is by looking and seeing, based on their page, um, if they have a Twitter, a lot of journalists will put their email in their Twitter, and they'll
Mm.
say tips welcome or DM me for tips. So tips is like, yeah, any or story ideas. So that's a great way to do it, is looking on, usually Twitter, I'd say, is the best place I found emails. And that works really well for TV media, especially. So if you want to be on a TV, like a local TV show or even national, they'll often have their email in their Twitter bio. And so that's been another useful way. You could also, if they are active on Twitter and they have messages open, you could message them. Sometimes, and when I message on LinkedIn or Twitter, I'll be really quick. I'll say, hey, I am working with this really awesome company. They've grown, I forget the exact number, I think like 230% in the US. They're called Digistore
Mm.
24. Can I send you an email with more info? And then they may be like, sure, send me, like, here's my email or something like that. Like, I'll just tease just enough so that
Mhm.
they're like, okay, this is relevant to what, like, I write about, like, emerging tech companies, and this sounds like something I'd be interested in. Um, and so that's a good way to do it. The other way for TV is on their station, on like a local TV station's website. They have a list of their reporters and their anchors, so you can also find their emails there. So it's like a lot of stalking. I feel like in PR, we
Mhm.
all
Yeah.
consider ourselves like glorified stalkers, and that we dig deep. We go into Google to try and find their information wherever we can and find a way to reach out. So yeah.
That's interesting. So, how do you actually like? Let's say you have like a tech company, or use my example. Okay, we have this software as a service company. We're also growing in the US, which I'm very happy about. That's because it's quite unusual for a European company, and especially a German company, to even get your foot in into the door of the US. Um, how like how do you make it how can you make it interesting for those newspapers or TV stations, et cetera, or their influencers, et cetera? Because I feel a little bit like my challenge with this would be, there is so many people trying to get coverage from them and sending them, hey, there is this info, that info. Like, how do you make the match? If that makes sense.
Yep. No, great question. So, and you'll hear if you ever hear journalists like they're talking about, like we have journalists come on and talk to us about sort of best practices. And one of the
Mhm.
things they say is, oh, I'll get 100 emails a day, or depending on the outlet, like smaller outlets or like a podcast may get like 10 to 20 outlet pitches a day. And like they're just a podcast host on the side like you. And then they also run a company. So that's like 10 to 20 emails in addition to all the emails they get for work. Or you have someone at like a huge show in the US is Good Morning America, and they get like 100, 200 emails a day.
Mm.
So how you can stand out is really like, it's a few things. It's being like building the relationship, like I said, and then
Mhm.
timeliness. So what about your company is timely? And like the questions I ask when thinking about, before I pitch someone, I say, okay, who, like, what does this reporter write about? They write about emerging startup companies. Okay,
Mhm.
great. Like, what have they, like, who have they written about before? And maybe I'll look and see, have they written about your competitors or written about other founders, and like share, like, are they sharing more of like the success story of like zero to hero, or are they
Mhm.
sharing a funding announcement or something like that? So I sort of look, I see what are they covering, and then I decide, okay, now who who would care about what I'm going to share with Digistore 24? Like, who is it? What's that audience? Like, is this the right
Mhm.
outlet? So a great outlet for you all would be like Entrepreneur, because you're targeting both small businesses that want to host and become vendors on Digistore 24, but also these people who are maybe doing a side hustle and want to become an
Mm.
affiliate marketer, for the products. So I want to make sure that I'm pitching the right audience. And then I want to, yeah, really personalize the pitch to the person. So, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of PR people will just send out and it's like, hey, name, hope you're having a great day. Like, this is all like, here's who Digistore is and what they do, and do you want to cover them? So that's like
Mhm.
not the way to do it. Instead, you want to start and you want to talk about why, like how you've learned about the writer you're writing about. So like,
Mhm.
hey, I saw you've covered this founder of this company, or I saw that you've recently written about like the emerging side hustles in the online space, and like I'd love to share this idea. Like, they're new in the US. They're called Digistore 24. And I'm like, what they're trying to do is help anyone with a social media account or an internet connection become like earn $500 extra dollars a month. And they can do
Mhm.
that through affiliate marketing. So I position it more to it being about how can, like, why would the reporter be interested? But most
Mm.
importantly, how would the general public who reads this article, what's their takeaways? So like you always sort of
Yeah.
want to focus on the benefit for them. And then obviously like you do want to tell what Digistore does, um, like the growth, because that shows that you've gotten traction. But like you're
Mm.
also really highlighting how Digistore is helping other people. Like, how is it helping a small business owner? Or how is it helping someone who wants to
Mhm.
become an influencer and like, or take their uh, like online social media passion to the next level by becoming an affiliate marketer. So yeah, that's sort of some of the things. It's really about personalization when you're like to stand out amongst those 100 plus pitches.
I see. Yeah, that totally makes sense. It's feels like kind of like online dating where you like, okay, hey, I read your profile,
Yeah.
like as opposed to just sending something a random hey, and then you're interested in XYZ. I can see that approach. Yeah, I
Yeah,
used to give some dating advice in like 10 years ago. That was one of my first digital businesses. That's why I always make that analogy, and it's also good for the listeners to be able to draw some parallels there. Thank you. That was
definitely.
very
Like in there more like something
yeah,
that's more relatable. Totally, you're definitely right.
totally. Yeah, because I see like any type of sale or relationship building as a general thing, whether be it like finding a partner or finding a business partner or finding a company or a newspaper to work with or TV station, whatever. Like
Mhm.
it's always the same process. Like you have to spark interest, you have to get attention, spark interest, and then like do some kind of close, whatever that is, right? So yeah, totally makes sense to me. Um, like for our company, it wasn't like in the very first years, it wasn't so interesting to even think about media coverage or anything. It was just about sales and some marketing, actually. Um, from your perspective, when does it make sense to start thinking about this? Because, like, of course, the first answer would be, yeah, uh, always makes sense. But like, let's say if you look at a solopreneur, if you or if even or worse, like someone who does a side hustle, um, your time is very limited. And even in our
Yes.
big company, our timely resources, time is so limited. When does it make sense to start thinking about it and to take action? Um, assuming you have a small business or you are a coach or some consultant, when does it make sense to think about it
That's a
from your
great
perspective?
question. Yeah. So I think one of the biggest misconceptions about PR, if you hire a PR company, is that cool, I hire them, I don't have to do anything. And that's a big misconception. When you hire a PR firm, you also have to do work. And that's
Yeah.
really like helping them understand your messaging, um, and sharing like the ideas, the latest news about your company, and really like it's a mutually beneficial. Like we do most of the work, definitely. Like it's not like you don't do nearly as much work, but like we understand your story. We help, like we do all the heavy lifting. But like if we are, setting up an interview with Sven, we obviously need to have Sven available to talk
Mm.
on TV or like do a podcast interview, which may be longer form. Um, but I think you're right. Like anyone can benefit from PR, but a few ways to do it successfully is like, and the benefits of PR is like to share your story. So your customers, like, they understand more about you and what you do. It also keeps you top of mind. They're, listening to a podcast and suddenly Sven's on the podcast that they love listening to. And they're like, oh, wow, yeah, like I need to go back and sign up. Like I did Digistore a year ago and then I sort of fell off of it. I'm going to sign back up because I got to hear Sven again and really made me excited about what they're doing. And then, as I mentioned, it makes you be a thought leader in the space and you develop relationships. But as far as the best time as to when to do it, um, going back to the timeliness element, if your company
Mhm.
is growing fast, and especially if you're launching new products, it's always like a great time to, like, if you have a big launch coming, maybe if you notice, like, maybe for these smaller companies, they wouldn't be like getting a funding announcement or anything like that. But any sort of
Mm.
like big news that like would benefit how your company is benefiting other people, that's like an easy thought as to, oh yeah, okay, I need to get involved in PR. But also, like, if you are really wanting to get more leads, it's PR can be a piece. And you could, we actually coach a bunch of people. We have this whole separate thing called the Be on TV Boot Camp, and originally
Mhm.
it does start with people being on TV, but like also media, we know, goes beyond TV. It goes like your audience may not be on TV. Your audience may be more on, um, like online, or like they may be reading trade magazines, which is more business to business type media. So finding out like when you know what that audience is, you can carve out maybe just like 30 minutes a day. One thing you could do is Haro, Haro. That
Mhm.
is a great resource to start getting you out as a thought leader. Every day, journalists put their requests. Like it doesn't take as much time, but they have a section for business and finance. And it may be like, say they have something like, how can I boost my digital marketing to earn more revenue? And you can respond to that, and it's easy. It's more reactive, and you're not putting too much time in. But like if you're included, then you're seen as one of the thought leaders with whoever else they include. Um, so that's like one good way to make it happen easily, is like doing it more on the reactive basis. And then proactively, it's really you deciding, okay, I really want to push this part of my business. Like I am ready for the influx of clients that are going to come when they hear my name. And so I want to make sure that uh, they know about me. So you can do it in a few different ways to build your audience as well.
I see. Yes, kind of it's kind of like I love the discussion about marketing versus sales. And what I'm thinking is that actually the bigger your brand is, the less skilled you have to be at sales. Sales are way easier if you have a certain brand. So my personal opinion is even like if you manage to have some media coverage, even if your primary audience isn't watching TV, then just the fact that you were on TV, that you've been on TV and you let for example, your YouTube following know, or your Instagram following or whatever, or your email list, just the fact that you've been there kind of makes you more of an authority. And therefore it would be worthwhile, even if no one on TV would watch that. That's kind of my personal take on it. In the following episode of Svencast, getting followers nowadays extremely hard. It's very hard. It's difficult because
Yeah.
I mean there's so much content out there, and everyone tries to be an influencer, and everyone is like doing inspirational quotes, inspirational texts.
As you build traction, the more media placements you have, the easier it is to get more media.
On a side note, you mentioned a very important point. You have to get your product or your service right. It doesn't make sense to invest in PR when you're not serving your customers. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and never miss an episode of Svencast again.